Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Aryan Malik. Today is Study with Me Day 18. We'll be continuing our discussions on fundamentals of nursing. Today's topic will be HIPAA. HIPAA means Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's a law that protects the right to privacy for clients. It regulates how a client's personal health information, for example, diagnosis, test results, are used and disclosed. We, as healthcare providers, are legally and ethically required to protect a patient's privacy as well as maintain confidentiality of their medical information. Now, let's glance over what are some important things to remember when we talk about HIPAA. First, only share clients' info with other team members that are directly involved with the care. You need to share the information on a need to know basis only, and there should be no oversharing detailed information with non essential personnel, for example, transporters, secretary. So, um, when we talk about non essential, we should not share information like what was the diagnosis of the client or their lab results. Now let's look at a question. Say, charge nurse from another unit asks about the client's condition, saying, the client is my neighbor and I want to check on her. As a nurse, you will say, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you. Because here it is not a need to know basis. Here the charge nurse from another unit does not need to know. Let's look at another question. Say the nurse looks up the chart of a cousin who is not under the care of the nurse. What is the manager's next action? Contact human resource department because this is a breach in confidentiality and the registered nurse can lose her job for doing this. The second important point to know about HIPAA is never discuss client information in the hallway, elevator, public area, outside hospital. So it is really important to have these conversations in secure private area only at work, for example, the nurse station or a private room. The third thing to know is do not access chat or information that is not needed directly for work. The fourth important point is computer chatting. There should be no password sharing when you are accessing, say, a patient's chart on your computer. You should not share it with any of your coworkers or even supervisor or any director who asks for it. You should always log off when stepping away and log off your coworkers if they do leave the computer in the hall unattended. Here, our main goal is to protect the client's information. Now, say a nurse has shared his computer username and password with a student nurse. What are the possible consequences? The nurse can be prosecuted and possibly be behind the bars. Next point to remember is there should be no taking information home. You should dispose of report sheets in a secure shredder, and old medical records are kept in a locked file cabinet in the department. Next important thing to remember is information releases. Yes, clients have a right to receive a copy of the health records, and no, sharing information with a family or friend without client's permission is a straight no. We should always take the client's consent if they are okay with us disclosing the information about their diagnosis or lab results or any confidential information with their family members. So, say a husband is requesting lab results for his wife. How should the nurse respond? Let me check if you have permission. Say a 19-year-old female asks for a prescription for oral contraception. She is under her parents' insurance but does not want her parents to know. According to HIPAA, which of the following should the provider tell the patient? The client's parents may not view the medical record but may learn about it from their insurance billing receipts. As the client is over 18 and legal adult, they have a right to their privacy, and the the parent might not view their medical record, but they might eventually find out what is going on when they see it, when they see an item being billed via the insurance. The seventh point to remember for HIPAA is report any breach of confidentiality. Some examples of violation that is committed in terms of HIPAA are talking about a client's condition in a hallway, elevator, cafeteria, etc., or taking home a client's report sheet. Medical information must be shredded at the end of the shift. Sharing information with a client's roommate. For example, your roommate is going for a gallbladder surgery. That is not an information we should share with the roommate. Or a violation is also sharing information with a client's spouse or legal guardian without permission. Now, here is where it gets tricky. Now, we also need to look at what are some scenarios which are not a violation so that we do not mingle them with the scenarios which are a violation. So, which scenarios will be not a violation of sharing information? Say there is a nosy client roommate who hears report details through a curtain. So say you are a registered nurse, you are telling a client about their report, you're giving them report, you're telling them about their diagnosis, and you have maintained privacy, but there is a nosy roommate of that client who is kind of trying to peep through the through the curtain and trying to listen. That is not a violation because you have done everything in your responsibilities to maintain the confidentiality, so that will be not a violation. And say another example of not a violation is writing out the last name of a client on a whiteboard, calling full name in a waiting room, telling a visitor to wear a mask because the client's on isolation precaution, and general discussion about cures for disease like HIV. Remember this, as long as disease diagnosis and details are not shared, you are not violating HIPAA. Which of the following violates the health information privacy law? So, calling out a client's full legal name, first and last name in the waiting room is not a violation. You are just calling out the client's name. Telling the client's transportation tech that the client has stage 4 pancreatic cancer for 3 weeks and needs to be handled gently. Yes, this is a violation of HIPAA because you are oversharing. The information should be shared on a need to know basis. Here, the transporter does not need to know that what is the diagnosis of the patient. The only thing that you should mention is the patient should be handled gently. Third, client overhears the nurse giving report details on the client's roommates through the room's curtain. It is not a violation. The nurse did her part by closing the curtain. So again, the nurse made sure to maintain the confidentiality, but it was the nosy roommate who was trying to hear the conversation. Fourth, the new graduate nurse accessing updated medical records of a client that they took care of last week but not currently assigned. Yes, it's a violation. The student nurse has need to look into the information because it's not their assigned client and there is no need to know basis here. The fifth and the last is explaining the results of a client's laboratory reports to a unit secretary who is organizing the client's medical records. It's a violation because the secretary does not need to know the details. There should be no oversharing and it should be always on a need to know basis. Some information should be shared even if the client does not consent to it. Now we are looking at some exceptions of the HIPAA. So usually that pertains to patient safety. For example, the client says that I want to commit suicide or they're threatening self-harm or harm to others. The healthcare provider should share and HIPAA laws don't apply here. If the client states they are being abused, the nurse is mandated to report. Say the nurse would the nurse be justified in breaking confidentiality if an older adult client discloses their caregiver hits them? Yes, it's mandatory reporting, and as registered nurses, we would be required to report this statement of the client. Now, let's look at records and billing that may be different. So, what I mean by that is that a child may have the right to privacy with their records, but if the parents are paying the insurance, they may see the items on the bill like birth control. Inadvertent sharing of data is not a violation of HIPAA. And in this scenario it is considered if the nurse used reasonable measures to protect the client's information. So an example that I mentioned before was a, a nurse is having a conversation with a client about their diagnosis, and the nurse has maintained full confidentiality by having the curtain and maintaining the right to privacy, but there's a nosy roommate who's trying to lean onto the conversation, trying to hear what's going on. So that will not be a violation of the privacy violation of the HIPAA. My apologies. And we always, whenever we're talking about the HIPAA violation in these scenarios, we are always looking at if the registered nurse took reasonable measures, and in this scenario, yes, it did. I hope you found this video helpful. Please stay tuned for more videos that come in the future. Thank you for watching.